Welcome to the Everyday Discipleship podcast brought to you by the First United Methodist Church in Lakeland, Florida, off of Lake Morton, if you're local to Lakeland. My name is Maggie Maryday, and I'm very excited to be hosting the podcast for you all. And on behalf of the church, I'm very excited to introduce our first guest to the podcast. This is Sarah Hester. Sarah has a really neat ministry experience serving as our American Sign Language interpreter for our contemporary worship services, and her story is really cool. So we just wanted to bring her on to share a little bit of that with you all. So for our folks who are regular attendees of our church, they might be really surprised to hear that you're not actually a sign language interpreter by trade. So Sarah, tell us a little bit about you and share a little bit of your story with us.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's true. I'm actually not an interpreter professionally. This is something I do as a voluntary thing, as a ministry, because it's something that's always been a passion of mine. It's something that I think is important. But my real job outside of this is being a behavior analyst. So I work with children, primarily those on the autism spectrum, but also with some other behavior issues or intellectual disabilities, and helping them just, learn to communicate, control their behaviors, learn functional life skills, just whatever it's going to take to make them a happy and successful person.
That's amazing. So how did you find First Church in Lakeland?
Well, this actually is sort of, I guess, what I consider my spiritual heritage church. My dad grew up here. So my grandparents were members here for, 60 years, something like that. And so my dad actually grew up really near here. This is where he attended, his entire life. It's where my grandparents were, their entire marriage. So I actually came here periodically. When I was younger, we'd come to visit my grandparents, and this is where we went to church. And then I ended up coming to college at Florida Southern.
Go Knox.
Right?
Go alum.
Exactly. So I mostly did campus ministries and stuff while I was there, but once I was ready to graduate and go off to grad school, I was like, I've kind of fallen in love with Lakeland. I want to be here. Like, this is where I want to stay. So I was like, okay, well, now that I'm not like a regular student, I need to do some church shopping, I guess, figure out where I'm going to be off of the campus. So it's like, okay, well, First that's kind of my spiritual heritage church. Like I said, like they get first dibs. We'll try them first. And I came here that first Sunday and left just in tears, just overwhelmed by all of the love that I felt and how warm it was. And I was like, This is home. I don't need to go anywhere else. I'm good, and I just I haven't left yet.
I love that story. Thank you for sharing that. Lakeland has a way of doing that to you, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You come and you can't leave ever again. Yeah, awesome. So tell us about ASL. Why is ASL important to you? How did you find ASL and your interest in ASL and becoming an interpreter?
Well, that's something that I've honestly been interested in for about as long as I can remember. My mom always really liked learning about deaf culture and ASL. Like when she was younger, she was really interested in the story of Helen Keller and things like that. She learned a few basic things like some finger spelling and stuff like that she had shown me. But the church that I grew up at, that my parents still attend, actually also had an interpreter. So I would watch her during the services sometimes, and she used to teach a class. So when I was about 9 to 10, my mom and I would go to the classes together, and learn and do that together. So after a couple of years, the interpreter stopped doing the classes, but something about it just always stuck with me. So I did a little bit off and on through high school. I took a break for college because, as you know, Florida Southern is a small school, and you're limited on, extra language options. So I didn't really do much then, but when I moved, to settle in Lakeland and started going to church, one of the first announcements I saw that first Sunday was beginning sign language classes. And I thought, I've been wanting to pick that up again. That could be kind of fun. We'll see what happens. So I started going to it, and there was one day, maybe 6 months into when I'd started attending, that both of the teachers somehow simultaneously forgot that it was a Monday, and neither of them showed up for class.
Oh, wow.
So we were all just kind of sitting around looking at each other like, what do we do now? I don't. And so somebody goes, Sarah can teach. And I went, Sarah can what now? Excuse me? So I was like, I think I have, the music that we did last time. We can maybe review some of that. I don't know. So we just, I kind of made something up as we went. And then the next week, Becky and Donna, who had been teaching, started apologizing for missing class. And that was the moment they both realized they had both forgotten. And they're like, oh my gosh, we're so sorry. We just abandoned you guys. And somebody goes, it's fine. Sarah taught the class. And they went, oh, did she now? And so it sort of spiraled from there, I guess. I started interpreting, occasionally on Sunday mornings. I would sneak up and do like a song or two and step down. I wasn't ready to do any of the harder stuff yet, but I would do some of that I could practice for. And then at one point, my students started telling me in the class, they're like, you should start a YouTube channel. I was like, okay, first of all, nobody wants to watch that. That's ridiculous. But also, I'm in a master's program right now. I'm doing a thesis. I'm doing well to get up in the morning and remember to put on pants and like how to spell my own name. Like I can't handle that right now. So it's like, talk to me after I graduate. Thinking, of course, they're gonna forget about it. Spoiler alert, they didn't forget about it. So once I graduate, they're like, YouTube channel, right? I was like, well, I guess my excuse is gone, so okay, sure. So I started one and I think I'm close to 6,000 subscribers now, which is mind-blowing to me, but yeah, like I don't know how that happened. Yeah, and so then just it kind of spiraled from there. Like I ended up taking over the classes. I have my YouTube channel that I post stuff on there. Obviously, things sort of shifted a bit in March 2020. I got a call from David saying, hey, we don't know exactly how things are going to go with this whole shutdown situation, but, we're going to try to really limit things, as far as, people in the service and everything. Do you think you could do the whole service by yourself? Which I don't think I'd ever done at this point. Just, to try to like really limit the number and everything. Because, I was the one who had the least health concerns. So I said, absolutely, sure. It's fine. It's only going to be like, maybe 2 or 3 weeks. It'll be fine. And, here we are.
Right. So what does ASL ministry mean to you? Why is it important that we have that accessibility for folks within the life of the church?
I think it's important just because, I'm kind of a compulsive advocate just across all things. Like, I spend, my day job, working with children and families with special needs. I spend a lot of my free time, working on like ASL related things. Just because I've always very firmly believed that the fact that you don't have a voice doesn't mean that you don't have something to say and you shouldn't be listened to and you shouldn't be included. Like, you have every right to know what's going on around you. You have a right to participate. You have a right to feel like you belong somewhere, And something that a lot of people don't realize is about 98% of adult deaf people have no affiliation with a church, have no real religion to speak of, have no connection or relationship with God, because most of them have never had that opportunity. They either couldn't find a church that had interpreting, so they didn't go at all, or they maybe were dragged along by their hearing family and again didn't have interpreting, so they just grew up thinking of God as just kind of a hearing people thing, the same as like going to movies without captions or something like that. They couldn't understand, they couldn't participate, so they don't really think of God as something that's for them, And it just, I don't know, I guess my mission is just to change that. I think that whether people choose to come or not obviously is up to them, but my goal is for our church to always be accessible. So any Sunday you can walk in and find a place that you can not only understand what's going on, but you can feel welcome and feel involved and feel connected and like you belong here because you're part of the family.
I love that. And how beautiful that you're taking something that was just kind of a hobby for you and your mom, like a special thing that you and your mom did together and a skill that you learned together. And now you're making Christ's love for others accessible. I never had thought about the fact that, folks who don't have the ability to hear might never have been introduced to the word because that it just wasn't accessible to them. And that's so amazing that you are choosing to use that gift for good, and we're so thankful that you're using it here with us. So my last question that I want to ask, this podcast is called Everyday Discipleship. So what does everyday discipleship look like to you?
I guess just finding the little things you can do every day that help you connect more, with your true self, connect more with God, the people around you. So I think a lot of times, we hear the word discipleship and we think it has to be this big thing, like we have to, go on some big mission trip. We have to go out and save the world. We have to go out and do this great, huge thing. And some of us absolutely are called to do that. More power to you. A lot of us are more called just to do the little things where we are. Like, am I saving the world by, interpreting on Sundays? No, but maybe a few people who haven't really been able to participate in church before can tune in our live stream or, come in on a Sunday morning and feel like they belong there. That's great. Or people stumble across my YouTube videos and will leave comments about how there's just, something about it just really touched them. They felt like God was really speaking to them, through the words of the song, and then also the way I portray it. And they had this great spiritual moment with God and everything, just, because I posted a video. That's awesome. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of it's just, it's finding those little ways, whether it's, just showing up at work every day and doing your best, even on a day when maybe you don't feel like it, or, finding ways to just, be a little bit kinder to the people around you, or even just learning to see everyday life as your mission field. I think that's beautiful. And I think that's a way that we can all look to be everyday disciples.
Yeah, I love that.
Thank you.
I love that. Mm-hmm. And just because someone doesn't have a voice doesn't mean that they don't have something to say. Mm-hmm. I think that's my big takeaway from our time together today. Yeah. And also, I want to encourage you that, ASL and you're interpreting here in little Lakeland, mm-hmm.
It
may not be saving the world, but it is the world to the folks who you do it for. And
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I want to encourage you with that. So real quick, tell us your YouTube channel so we can all go subscribe and follow and check out your videos.
So it's youtube.com/Sarah Signs. So SarahSigns. So sign language. If you forget that, you can just go onto YouTube and just search Sarah Signs ASL, something like that, and I'll pop up. You'll see my face.
Awesome. And if we want to come see you in person, which services are you interpreting?
I interpret the 9:30 service every Sunday morning.
Okay, so 9:30 contemporary in the fellowship hall on Sunday mornings.
Yeah, when you come in from the back, you want to sit more towards the left. That's where my interpreter box is. So.
Awesome. And if you're joining us online still, you can also stream that service through our website or on Facebook. And Sarah is featured on that streaming service as well. Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you, Sarah, so much for your time. We appreciate you, and we're so thankful to have you as a member of our church.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.